Hey there, Vikings, Viking families. Welcome. It's Friday, and I'm not doing a live podcast today. There's a number of things you'll see in an attached document. I'll be explaining kind of why. And so I wanted to kind of slow down and explain some of the changes. So first off, hope you're doing well. Hope you're having, it's a brisk, seeing the frost and seeing all of the sheets and the blankets driving to work this morning in Mount Horeb. Just realized it's a chilly one this morning, but hope you're doing well. Again, I'm not doing a live podcast today because I really want to be able to explain some of the changes and some of the things that students are going to be seeing in the next couple of days and weeks, and be able to kind of talk about the why behind some of those pieces. So in this email, you haven't attached a document that explains what some of this is. So I'm going to walk through the document a little bit, and it kind of talks about how we've been able to look through a variety of different, got a lot of feedback recently in terms of discussions and the feedback. I had 400 students take a survey, the community survey. It's been really interesting to see this data. And so a couple of things really came up, and we're looking to address some of the stresses that come along with these, including, homework, touch points, and absences, and kind of what that looks like. So first, homework grades. Homework does allow students to be able to build skill and in a concept, and kind of continue to practice and practice. Really, homework is a really key piece of practicing. But we also know homework. I may learn a skill for the first time and do poorly on homework, and then as my skill builds, I get better and better. But that homework can have a negative impact. That first piece of homework can have a negative impact on the final grade. So the final grade doesn't. We always feel like something may not be a reflection of what the student knows at the end of the semester, but also can have a really big negative impact is the zero. For a variety of reasons, students miss homework. And we know right now with the virtual thing and trying to navigate virtually and organizational, some students are missing some homework, or a lot of pieces of homework. But we also know that students know information and they're learning. And so what we're going to be doing is a missing assignment, an M, is no longer going to be a 0, it will be a 50%. So you miss a homework assignment, yes, it's still going to be an F, it's still a 50, but it's not going to bear you so you don't feel like you can get out of it. So anytime that something is an M, it's going to be a 50%. This does not count for assessments. So we call them summative in the education world, but a test, a project, a final paper, we call it summative. That still has a 100-point scale because that will still give us a real range of where the student is at. And we need to make sure students are taking that assessment. So your students are going to see back, they're going to look at their grade and they're going to go, wow, I didn't do that, but I got a 50. Yep, that's because it's still missing. So if you see a 50 in their parents, it'll still be, the M is still missing. And the example we give in here, really the inequities of our grading of the 100-point scale, is that a student can get 3 85s, like a good solid B, right? Yeah, we understand most of the content, and then misses a homework assignment. They're now averaging an F. And the inequities of how you can do 3 homework assignments, 85%, and then get a 0, it's not really a reflection of what you know, it's a reflection of what I would call as a behavior, which is did you do or not do the homework? And that's not, and we want grades to reflect what a student knows, not always what behavior they do. So I've also included a kind of a real brief article on here about getting rid of the 0, the inequities of the 100-point scale. And so just, again, it's a quick one-pager. You'll see kind of the thinking behind it. This is not a new concept. It's been around for a while, and but the assessment, the summative piece is still going to be a 100-point scale, but that homework. And so hopefully that provides a little bit of stress relief for students who may be missing a ton right now and they feel like they'll never dig out of that 0. No, you'll be able to dig out of it. Still try to get some of that homework done, but you can dig out of that. The other piece too is when it comes to homework, students right now in our current, what was sent out is late work should not be penalized, and late work should not be penalized. But at some point, we get into a unit and we get far enough along where the learning is passed. And so homework, sometimes when we do homework, we want to get that feedback. That feedback loop is important where you send me your homework, I take a look, I grade it, put it back into Google Classroom, and you can see how you did and see kind of where you need to improve. Well, after a while, that feedback loop becomes too big of a gap if a student hasn't handed their homework in. So we are going to be having due dates. A student will have a due date for homework as they normally do. There will then be kind of what we'd call a last chance date. That would be no sooner than a week out from the due date. And after that last chance date, and a teacher can't do any sooner than a week, but they can extend it out farther if they would like. The student can, if they don't hand their homework in, it's going to go in as a missing, which would be that 50, and the teacher does not have to accept it. And really that's about doing a couple different things. It is providing some a little harder deadlines for our students, which we want to make sure we do. That planning component, that frontal cortex of the brain where we do planning with adolescents and high schoolers, isn't fully developed. We know that doesn't get developed until they're in their 20s. And so trying to help kind of move that piece along and do some planning, provide some harder deadlines to put some urgency in. We know that students are kind of like, yeah, I'll get it in, and then they all of a sudden look and they're missing 20 assignments, and then that panic sets in. And so we need students to continue to work and on the homework. Like, we're getting a lot of feedback of students saying, look, I have a job, I have this, I have a lot of homework. And I would argue you do have those things, but you also could be waking up in the morning and getting some of this work done too. And so our push to really make sure that we're using that morning time, whether it's touch points or just getting up. But the homework deadlines, you're going to have that due date. You're going to have that last chance date. And after that, a teacher has the ability to mark that as missing. It goes in as a 50. They don't have to accept it anymore, and we move forward. And really, it's about just trying to continue to keep the semester going. And that 50 will hopefully make sure the person doesn't feel buried. So those are two of the bigger pieces that you're going to see coming in starting next week, as well as touch point attendance. We've got about 35% students utilizing our touch points, but we also probably have a lot more students being asked to attend or requested and not doing so. Students are being requested to do so for small groups or independent work is because they're either missing assignments, they've shown in their homework or on an assessment or a quiz they're not understanding a concept and the teacher wants to help them out, and it will make their homework shorter if they kind of understand how to do it. And so it's really critical that we have students there. So what's going to happen now is if a student gets requested by a teacher, and that is, it needs to be in an email, or we want to make sure that we have a document that it's been requested, that if the student doesn't show up to the requested touch point on that day that's associated with that period, they can be marked absent. And really that's about, we need students to be showing up there because we're trying to help out. And yes, I know maybe you getting up a little bit earlier, and I know that can be a frustrating piece, but it's about the teacher trying to help out and requesting to get that, to really make sure that you understand the content, which will make your life easier down the road when you're getting these assessments and getting other pieces of homework. So these are really the three big pieces, and I think students some will not care about the 50. I think looking at the homework deadlines might frustrate some, but also provide some guidance and say, okay, at least I know kind of when I have to do this. And then the touch point attendance, while it may not impact everybody, we need students to be attending those, and teachers have been requesting and asking, and students aren't showing up. And we want to make sure that if you're being requested, and you can still request to go, and you could still be a student who goes, Mr. Gage, I want to touch base about AP Calc. Can I come in tomorrow? Yep, you come in, and if you don't show up for whatever reason, which we hope doesn't happen a lot, but you won't be marked absent there, because if he's waiting, you don't come in, that can also always cause a little bit of a problem too for the teacher. So again, touch point attendance, we're tightening up on that. While we know that it's not a mandatory piece where students have to be available the whole time, we do want students to be there when they're being asked if they're struggling with something. If you have a sibling at home and we understand that there are things that happen at home, and we want you to be communicating with the teacher about why or why not ahead of time, or why that may or may not work. But it's about to be supportive. We're trying to help out and make sure students understand the content. As what we're hearing in feedback is that sometimes things are just going really fast, and a teacher will touch on something for a little bit, but then they'll see on the homework or a quiz. Well, maybe these touch points are the opportunity to make sure that you understand the breadth of what's being put out there in the course. So again, I know that this is a change, especially with the 50 piece. Hopefully that does some reprieve. We're still talking about how we can continue to support the homework component of it and make sure we're not overloading students. But then those homework deadlines will allow students, yes, there'll be that deadline, you'll need to get it done. But once that deadline's passed, continue to move forward, focus on the learning moving forward, and go from there. So here are the three big things that I wanted to share out as they're important, critical pieces, some changes that we've made. I hope that you can reach out to me if you've got comments, questions, concerns. This is going to be it's a process. We're making these little adjustments here and there as we get feedback. To have 400 students who provided feedback in a survey. We had a couple thousand people in the community give feedback in the community survey. We've been talking to teachers, talked to neighbors. Just try to get as much input as we can when we make these decisions. But we also need to keep learning moving forward, and we know that mental health is a critical component of it too. And we know that those two things are very much connected. So how do we support the mental health while also keep learning moving forward? So please reach out if you've got comments, questions, or concerns. You can always email me. Your emails will come right to me if you respond to this podcast or this Infinite Campus message. And again, I know this week wasn't live, but I really wanted to be specific about this content because I know this is a big change. And there will probably be some questions that will come up. There'll be some times that we got to iron some things out, or something doesn't go exactly how we want it to be planned, and we know that. But we need to start moving forward on some pieces to put some more parameters and boundaries on homework for students and for staff, as well as really try to hone in on those touch points, because our teachers want to be working with students in the morning, and we've committed to having that time be dedicated to students in the morning. So we need students to show up when they're being requested. So thanks everybody. Hope everybody has a wonderful weekend, and know that this will be probably one of my last podcasts. Many may know or may not know. My wife and I are expecting a little baby girl come October 20th. And so starting next week, I'll be working, but I'll be working from home to make sure that I'm not coming in contact with people prior to the birth of the baby, so I can be there. So I'll be working from home, but I will be working all day. But come October 20th, I will then be out of pocket. I'll be taking some paternity leave end of October through November, and then be back in December to spend some time with our little girl. And we do have a 5-year-old at home, but I want to be able to spend some time with her when she's born. So just know that this will be one of my last podcasts. Before then, obviously, Ms. Corcoran and Ms. Nessheim are great resources. You can always call up here. We'll make sure things are covered. But from a perspective for me, if you don't see me next week, it's probably because the baby came a little bit early. We're hoping to stay a little bit longer and get as close to that 20th due date as possible. So I look forward to hearing people's feedback and getting input in the next week or two as we roll out this change. You'll see it on Monday. The 50% on M will actually retroactive back to the beginning of the quarter. And so students that may have some missing assignments, you'll see that bump up in the grade. And again, continue to work hard, talk to teachers, communicate with teachers your needs. If you can't be in class, or you can't have your camera on, or something's going on, please make sure you're communicating with your teachers. We can make sure you have what you need, but we need students to be communicating. We can't always just make assumptions. We trust but verify. So again, hope everybody has a great weekend, and we will talk soon. Thanks. Bye.